Hi, you're welcome back to my channel. It's always a delight to have you here. My heart is burdened because one of the major problems in the world is the problem of hunger. And the truth is that you might be part of the problem. I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you how to fix it. It's either you're hungry, somebody around you is hungry even if you're not hungry, or you're part of the hunger problem. Now, in the Old Testament, the book of Genesis chapter 2 verse 15, there was no hunger. Did you notice that? In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve had all the trees they could eat from, and there was no record of them being hungry. Of course, eventually they had to be chased out of the Garden of Eden and had to go and work hard, yet they were still eating. So what then went wrong? I'll take the Garden of Eden as your sphere of influence or your mountain of influence. Now, a sphere of influence is a circle where you have influence. It could be a circle of friends where they trust your judgments, they listen to you, you have some sort of influence over them. Or it could be a circle of maybe your family members, your younger siblings, or even your older siblings, your parents, that you have some sort of influence over. That's a circle of influence. That's a sphere of influence also. It could even be your neighbors, it could be your colleagues at work, it could be your subordinates, it could be your contemporaries, it could be anybody at all. That some sort of way, either what you say or what you do goes a long way to determine what they say or what they do. It could be a subconscious thing. You see people hanging around a particular person, and before you know it, they talk like the person, they use the same slangs and so on. So a sphere of influence is basically a circle where you have influence. Then we have the mountain of influence also. We know the 7 mountains of influence, even though that's evolving now to about 12 or thereabouts. We have the mountain of religion, art and entertainment, business, politics, and so on. So in the Garden of Eden, you will notice that both the sphere of influence and the mountain of influence were represented. The sphere of influence for Adam in the Garden of Eden was his family. He had his wife. He had some sort of influence over her decisions, some sort, like I said. And then the mountain of influence, we could say maybe religion, because the Garden of Eden was an interface between heaven and earth. So God could come to the garden and Adam could meet with God. So there was an interface between heaven and earth. So that we could say is a mountain of religion. So we're seeing now that the Garden of Eden was a place where the person in charge had some sort of influence. So we can see that Adam had influence in that garden, and there was no hunger at all because he was tending the garden, like we see in Genesis chapter 2 verse 15. God told him to tend and care for the garden, and as long as he was doing that under God's supervision, there was no issue, there was no hunger. Eventually he was chased out, remember, with his wife after the sin, and then they had to till the ground eventually, but it didn't mean that they went hungry. They worked hard, but they were still eating. So what has gone wrong with us now? When we talk about a sphere of influence and mountain of influence, one word is common, and that's influence. And what is influence? That's leadership. Leadership is not about you having a title or a position. It's about you influencing people. So if, for instance, you're walking on the street and then you just turn by the road and then you're urinating on the wall or somewhere by somebody's shop or something, whereas there's a public toilet somewhere, or if there's no public toilet around there, like in some African countries, you could probably look for a better place to do it than in public glare, something like that. So you're walking by the road and then you just walk by and just begin to urinate on the wall, and you have a little child with you. The child sees you doing that, and then the child says, okay, so it's fine to just do this in public glare. You might say, oh, I'm a man, but you're in public glare. So the child picks that as an influence. And then the next time you're walking on the street, the child just, even if possible, almost splashes his urine against the people around there because he's seen maybe his dad or uncle just urinate and he doesn't even know how to culture himself well. So he just does it anyhow. And then you get upset. Why did you do that? And he's just looking like, I saw you do it. Even though I don't know how to direct the urine the way you do. I'm sorry that I'm using this kind of example. But I saw you do it. So somehow you've influenced the child. If, for instance, you throw a piece of paper also on the road while you're walking, you just throw your biscuit wrapper or whatever on the road, and then one day you see a child that is walking with you, maybe your child or your ward or whoever, do the same thing. You know, you could actually get upset and tell the child, why are you doing that? Forgetting that you did it first. That's leadership. You don't have to have a title to be a leader. So in the mountain of influence and sphere of influence that you find yourself, it means you're a leader, whether you like it or not. So what then is the cause? One of the major causes of poverty is leadership problem, and it is not about our government. Don't begin to point fingers to them straight. Let's start from us. It starts from you and I. Are we able to lead correctly in the garden of influence God has put us? And one of the things that you must note is that you don't know your garden of influence until you've done an introspection. I did a video about that, how to search out your gifts, because the Bible says that the gift of a man makes way for him, and that's in Proverbs 18 verse 16. The gift of a man makes way for him. Many people now are not looking for a job or a means of income that gives them that Garden of Eden experience. I mean, exactly what God has created you to do, to tend and care for a particular garden. That particular garden might be in business, it could be in arts, it could be in ministry, I mean pulpit ministry, religion now, it could be whatever at all. Many people are actually focused on just making the money. Now, it's okay for us to try to work hard to make ends meet. That's beautiful. But how about while we're at that, we're also ensuring, because you might say that, oh, in my economy, in the country I live in, it's difficult for me to get a job or a means of income that really matches my passion. If I wait so long, I won't have money to eat. Okay, that's fine. It's okay for you to get a job to make ends meet. However, while you're at it, what are you doing in line with that Garden of Eden experience being relieved? Because the truth is this: once you don't have passion for what you're doing, once you're not called, you're not wired for what you're doing, it's a matter of time before you lose the zest, before you lose the passion and zeal for that job, and then you're out of income again. It's either you change jobs or you're laid off because you're not delivering. So imagine that as you have children around you growing up, you're ensuring that you as a leader, remember, in that sphere of influence that you find yourself, you don't even have to know your mountain of influence, just have a sphere of influence. And we all do. Somebody watches you and does what you do. Just check. You have children, if you tell them sit, they sit. You have friends, if you tell them let's go out for a party, they follow you. You have influence over them. So what you must do is this: find your own garden. What did God wire me to do? What resonates from deep within me? And I've thought about this. I've talked about how to discover your gift, how to discover your tool. Even if that is where you start from, that is where I started from. I didn't know so much about my Garden of Eden. I mean, where God had sent me to, man. But I had a sphere of influence. I had friends. I had people around me that I had some sort of influence over. And all I knew at the point was your mouth is your tool. The Lord told me that. I heard him say that. So I had something to work with. I knew that I had power in my mouth. So I leveraged on it and I used it to the fullest. And then before you knew it, more information began to unfold. So what do you know about yourself so far? And what are you doing to ensure that through it, you're influencing people? Because if you keep doing what you're doing for money's sake, are you aware that there are so many people that are hoping that one day you will get it right? And when you get it right, they will get it right. Then they will find their own gift because you discovered yours. And they begin to use their own gift and begin to make the money that is commensurate to the kind of gift and the kind of value they give out. And then the problem of hunger is gradually put to death. But if you don't start, the people that God has put you over to influence, they don't know what to do also. So what must you do? Number one thing you must do is this: do an introspection with the help of the Holy Spirit. Ask yourself, where am I in my journey in life? What exactly do I know? Do I know my gifts? If you don't, check the video on this platform. Do I know my tool? If you don't, check the video on this platform. If you don't know your purpose, check the video. I gave a tip on all this. Check a video on this platform. One about how to discover your gift, how to discover your tool, and is my purpose staring at me in the face? So yours is number one, to do an introspection, checking, what do I know? You don't have to know everything about yourself. Yours is, what gift do I have? What tool do I have? Do I know my purpose? And then from there, you begin to make an impact, conscious now, a conscious impact on those people that God has put in your circle of influence, even if it's that you start from. Begin to tend your garden. Begin to fan to flame the gift that you know already. Begin to fan to flame the tool you have already. Read books about it. get a mentor in that area. Your purpose, get a mentor in that particular area. Read books, listen to sermons, go for seminars, fan it to flame. Why? There are so many souls waiting on you. Don't say, oh, it's the government that is making us hungry. You're a leader also. If you get it right with your own Garden of Eden, there are many people that you're going to raise, because Adam and Eve now had children, but of course they have been chased out of the garden. And one thing many of us don't realize is that the Garden of Eden wasn't the whole world. In fact, it was not the whole of Eden. It was a portion in the area called Eden. So God's plan was that Adam and Eve were going to train their children on how to also tend gardens, and then send them out when they're grown to go and have their own gardens, so that the whole world will become gardens like the Garden of Eden, where God's influence will be seen. It will be an interface between heaven and earth. So all the world will be little gardens of Eden, where God's influence is seen, where the garden is being tended and cared for, and where people are trained to do same, till the whole earth will be filled with the glory of God, like the waters cover the sea. Of course, that plan was thwarted by sin, but God is still in that business. And now the Garden of Eden is not just a physical garden, it's a sphere of influence, it's a mountain of influence. The children I'm talking about, for instance, in your garden might not be your biological children. There could be people that you have influence over, like I said. So they watch what you do, they see how you tend your garden, they see what you do in business, they see that you don't use ungodly measures to sell rice, to sell whatever you sell. Your measures are complete. So they are watching you. It could even be a sales girl. It could even be a customer. Unconsciously, you're doing something to their psyche. You're influencing the way they think. If we point fingers at the leaders were one day children. One day somebody that maybe you or somebody that you know raised, subconsciously programming them to lead the way you led. And then they're doing it wrong now, and then we're complaining. So where does the solution start? Number one, I said introspection. Number two, see that you have a part to play in leadership. You need to find yourself so that you can help those that you have influence to find themselves. When they find themselves, number one, they are not just making money, they are doing what God has wired them to do. So they are putting their entire passion, and they're also learning values, because you have instilled those values in them, whether verbally or non-verbally. And then they go headlong to fulfill their God-given purpose. And then they do the same thing to somebody else, that person to somebody else, that person to somebody else. It might take a bit of time, but do you know that if everybody in the world knew exactly why they are here, the world would be a better place. If everybody knew that they were supposed to do this exact thing and they are doing it, somebody is going to notice them, knowing that, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. You are doing what you're supposed to do. I need what you're doing. You need what I'm doing. I'll pay you for what you're doing. You pay me for what I'm doing. And then that's how money begins to circulate. So think about what I have said now and get to work. I'd like you to drop a comment below to highlight exactly what stood out for you and what you hope to do. Because many of us, we listen to very good messages, we read very good books, but we don't write, what steps would I take based on what I have heard. If you were blessed by this video, click on the thumbs up and ensure you share this video. I'll still do a follow-up video, even based on your comments and probably your questions. We're going to delve deeper and deeper into this subject as God helps us. See you at the next video. Remember to subscribe. God bless you.